quest for fame. That's the topic of today's Bold and Blunt, and I'm your host, Cheryl Chumley, giving you a Christian conservative look at today's news, politics, culture, and events. Americans seem obsessed with celebrities. American individuals, on the other hand, seem almost equally obsessed with desiring to become celebrities themselves. But is it healthy? Is it good for the individual and for the country at large? Before I get into that, I want to quickly mention that if you like Bold and Blunt, you can get Bold and Blunt at edify.app. That is the online platform for faith-based podcasts. You can get Bold and Blunt at washingtontimes.com. Just go there, find the newsletter section, click on it, find my name, and sign up for my 3 times a week newsletter. It comes out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Contains all my commentaries that I write all day long, all week long at the Washington Times, as well as my twice weekly Tuesdays and Thursdays Bold and Blunt podcasts. And one more quick mention, you can also get Bold and Blunt wherever podcasts are offered. 1 in 4 millennials would quit their job to be famous. That is from a Forbes article citing research back in 2017. Another poll from YouGov, this one in 2020. The headline, polls say we're a generation seeking fame. Interesting, isn't it? And so Sheridan Voisey, that is the writer of this article, found that a YouGov survey determined 1 in 3 millennials, defined as those between the ages of 18 and 25 back in 2020, 1 in 3 want to be famous. Some of them want to be famous so badly they would give up their jobs and their relationships in order to get fame. At the same time, another poll showed that 1 in 2 adults in America in general, millennials or otherwise, just adults in general, would actually enjoy being a little bit famous too. So what's going on in America? What happened to the quest for productivity or self-fulfillment, or the quest for job well done and inner self-esteem? Self-esteem that comes from the knowledge of doing something the best you can do it. Or how about self-esteem from above, from the recognition of being a child of God, endowed with certain talents and skills that are specific to the individual? What happened to that? Instead, it seems like America has turned toward the quick fix fame that social media posts oftentimes give. And the reason for the social media adoration doesn't seem to be so much of significance as the numbers of followers that are generated from the posts. Kim Kardashian, go back in time. It was sex tapes that brought her to the forefront. Paris Hilton, she's been quiet in recent years, but she was huge. She was huge years and years ago. Why? Again, a sex tape. It's odd what this quest for fame will make people do. Danica Patrick, remember her? Famous female race car driver. She was a celebrity already in her own right, but apparently it wasn't enough. She had to cut some really sexy Super Bowl ads for GoDaddy to achieve even higher celebrity status, to get more fame, to become more famous. This from B60 back in 2012.
And ad executives are also noticing a trend in Super Bowl commercials with more and more sex. Danica Patrick's GoDaddy commercials are leading the league, and this year is no exception. Wow.
See a lot more now at GoDaddy.co.
So then the ad spots would flash the GoDaddy website, so you could go there and see more Danica Patrick undressed, more skin Danica Patrick, more sexy poses Danica Patrick. Why? What's the need for this? If you're already a celebrity, why the need to do something that draws even more attention to yourself, and not even in a positive way? Anybody can take their clothes off. Why be known? Why the drive for fame, for having a sexy body or being able to pose in a sexy manner with others? Why not just the accomplishment of something that you had to work hard to hone as a skill and a talent? If that gives you fame, if that brings you fortune, if that drives your celebrity status, what is it about the psychology of a person who then wants to further that fame by taking off clothes, by doing something that requires zero skill, zero talent? This is sort of the dark side of the quest for celebrity status. The willingness to do whatever it takes to stay pertinent, to stay talked about, to stay famous. The Kardashian family does that as well. But what does it say about Americans who embrace this sort of fame quest? What does it say about us as a people, as a nation, as a culture that recognizes and rewards such seeming dark quests for fame? Why is it such a big deal to walk down a street and somebody recognizes you from an ad or a video in which you removed your clothes? Fame is a dangerous drug. This is an article posted on Psych Alive, and it was written a couple years ago, but it still applies. As was evidenced, Psych Alive writes, in the recent death of 48-year-old Whitney Houston, fame and celebrity can closely mirror substance abuse symptomology and over time result in actual substance abuse, isolation, mistrust, dysfunctional adaptation to fame, and then, too often, untimely death. The examples are familiar, from Judy Garland to River Phoenix and Michael Jackson to Whitney Houston. Developmentally, Psych Alive continues to write, the celebrity often goes through a process of first loving, then hating fame, addiction, acceptance, and then adaptation, both positive and negative, to the fame experience. Just a couple more lines. Becoming a celebrity alters the person's being in the world. Once fame hits, with its growing sense of isolation, mistrust, and lack of personal privacy, the person develops a kind of character splitting between the, quote, celebrity self, unquote, and the, quote, authentic self, end quote, as a survival technique in the hyperkinetic and heady atmosphere associated with celebrity life. So it seems to suggest that the quest for fame becomes an addiction in itself. It becomes sort of this cycle that repeats itself over and over. In order to keep it going, you have to keep doing things that make you more and more famous. That certainly should seem a turnoff for individuals to seek fame, because so often it brings a dark ending. But the thing is, in America, we recognize materialistic gain. It's part of our culture in terms of capitalism and free market successes. The more stuff you get, the more people recognize you for the stuff you get, and the higher your esteem grows based on that stuff that you have and that you continue to get. And in order to keep those good feelings going, you have to continually get more stuff or become bigger and more famous in recognition of the stuff that you have or the service you provide. It's part of America's culture. But really, we need to take a look at this. Because honestly, your esteem is supposed to come from the awareness and knowledge and acceptance of being a child of God. But I guess in these times, that's too radical a statement to make. Anyhow, I have a great guest with me today who has really seized the reins on this topic with a new book, Killing the Legends, The Lethal Danger of Celebrity. And in his book, he focuses on three enormously historically important figures in American culture: Elvis, John Lennon, and Muhammad Ali. Bill O'Reilly, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, Cheryl, anything for you? You know that.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Congratulations on your new book, Killing the Legends, The Lethal Danger of Celebrity. This is the latest of your highly successful Killing series, but it's a little bit different than the others. How so?
Well, it's social history, cultural history. We are trying in all of the Killing books, and this is the 12th one, to give you a good view of the United States of America. So if you start with Killing Lincoln and you read them all up until Legends, Killing the Legends, you have a good idea of what kind of people we are, how we've evolved into the country that we are today. And the three titans, and these have been completely overlooked by historians because many, Cheryl, historians, as you know, are snobs.
They are.
And they go, oh, Elvis and Lennon and Muhammad Ali. Well, they wouldn't do it with Muhammad Ali, but Elvis. Well, what about Millard Fillmore? I said, oh, we'll get to Millard. But, we're living in a country now where one teenager changed the entire culture in the 1950s, blew up the conformity culture into rock and roll. And then from 64 to 69, the Beatles spearhead the sex, drugs, rock and roll culture, which we have now. And at the same time, Muhammad Ali was fostering dissent by refusing to be drafted and promoting civil rights, and was fabulously successful in the African American communities in doing that. These are huge people, but have been ignored on the historical level. People are tabloiding this, tabloiding that. And then you add to that the fact that all of them were crushed by their celebrity, thus the subtitle, The Lethal Danger of Celebrity. They were destroyed by it, and all of them were betrayed. So to me, these are really compelling stories.
They are compelling stories. And to add to what you said about Muhammad Ali, he also broke some race barriers as well with his friendship with Howard Cosell.
Sure. Ali, this is another part of his history. He wasn't hate whitey, but he signed on to the hate whitey crew, the Nation of Islam. So it was such a disparity because he himself, I interviewed him. He didn't have, the skin color chip on his shoulder. I didn't see it. And I've talked to lots of people who were around him. They didn't see it. But, he sacrificed his whole life to Nation of Islam, which was a huge mistake for him in every way.
Yeah. And he threw his medal, famously threw his gold medal away as well. So when you look at these three figures in American history, what changes did they make that were for the better for America?
Well, that's an excellent question. What an interesting question that is. Well, Elvis Presley basically pinpointed the American dream. If you are talented in this country, and lucky, there's a little bit of luck involved, but mostly talented, you can rise to incredible heights. So that's a positive. So Presley was born with this talent, and he became the most famous person on the planet. Lennon, the Beatles, a little bit different in the sense that they showed working class people, because they were very working class out of Liverpool, that you can collaborate with your mates and again reach heights that are just fantastical. Ali, again, born with this incredible athletic talent, used it to its fullest. But the lesson there, and a lot of people don't know this, is that he worked his push off to develop that talent.
Right.
So I think those are the positive messages message is that it's aspirational. If you have talent, use it.
And yet they were tragic because the second part of your book speaks to the lethal danger. So what were the lethal pitfalls that these three figures went through?
Well, number one, you got to start with the fact that they were all poorly educated and they did not have a support system. And that is a very crucial part of their lives. But they weren't stupid men. And I do not portray them as victims. They all knew what was happening to them and allowed it to happen. So Presley becomes addicted to prescription drugs. He leads an incredibly unhealthy lifestyle. He puts himself in a bubble where he doesn't know what the deuce is going on, and in the space of 10 years, he's dead. Lennon actually becomes addicted to heroin, if you can believe it.
Wow.
It's just shocking, and that's what caused the breakup of the Beatles. That addiction that he allowed to happen. Now, he kicked it, but it was too late for the Beatles. Ali, for whatever reason, and I'm not a psychiatrist, could not function without a father figure telling him exactly what to do and when to do it, and that was Elijah Muhammad and then his son Herbert Muhammad. And the father figures betrayed him. So those are the pathways to destruction that all three of them were on.
Is there such a thing as healthy celebrityism?
You know, I don't know. Look, I'm a celebrity, okay? I always wanted to be famous, not because I wanted a mansion or a Ferrari, but I wanted people to know my name, like in Cheers, and I wanted them to respect my work as a journalist, and that happened. And I have pretty good parents. I'm very well educated. I have a degree from Harvard. I had no idea how I got ambushed. I wasn't prepared for it. It was my fault 100%. I should have been prepared for it. It is just such an unnatural state to be famous.
Yes.
And now it's so terrible because you leave your house, you're on a camera wherever you go.
Right.
And the burden emotionally on that just devastates people and those around them, their families and children in particular. We spent some time on the children of Ali, Lennon, and Presley, and how they were collateral damage in all this.
You know, I'm glad you brought up a little bit referencing yourself, because I did want to get into that. I was just curious how much of your own personal experiences drove you to write this book. Was that what sparked the interest initially?
No, it was always the cultural impact of the three people. That's what I saw and wanted to write about. What my advantage was that I understood the world. So I understand it. I mean, I'm sitting here with a list of people, Janis Joplin, John Belushi, Marilyn Monroe, Karen Carpenter, Chris Farley, Michael Jackson, Prince, Amy Winehouse, River Phoenix, Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Princess Diana, on and on and on. It never ends.
Right.
It never ends. And the commonality is that they all became very famous, and they just were overwhelmed by it. So I didn't get overwhelmed by it, but I got ambushed by it. And then I had to take steps, and I have, that to protect myself. It cost me millions of dollars to do that. But I said, hey, you know, I mean, most of the people in this country and around the world know who I am, and not significant, but a minor portion of those people are going to try to hurt me. And I have to protect myself. And so the celebrities, I don't know if they arrive at that conclusion. Yeah, they have bodyguards and fences, but a lot of it's from the inside. And that's what happened to Presley, Lennon, and Muhammad Ali. These were insiders that betrayed them.
You would think, look at Elvis, right? Because he was very committed to his faith throughout his whole life, as far as I know, as far as my understanding of his life is. And yet that didn't save him. Is there anything that you can look to in celebrities that shelters them from these types of storms?
No. No, you Nobody is prepared for it. I mean, even the Kennedy family, where they had a patriarch, Joseph Kennedy, who groomed them for fame and power, all of them had a tremendously difficult time handling it. And that's the best example I can give you, Cheryl.
So when you look back on your own life and your quest for celebrityism because you wanted to be influential in your field, do you regret it in any way?
I think I've done more good on the planet by being famous, and that if I wasn't, I couldn't have done that good. So, for example, we've raised more than $30 million to buy disabled veterans track chairs, high-track wheelchairs, which give them some sense of independence. I never could have done that if I weren't famous. So the good outweighs the bad, but the personal pain is just something you have to endure if you're going to be a celebrity. I mean, nobody escapes that. Nobody can mitigate it 100%.
I wonder if Elvis or John Lennon and Muhammad Ali or any of those others that you named on that extensive list, if that question were asked to them, I wonder what they would say. Is there anything in your research that could indicate some sort of answer for that?
They were not introspective men.
Right.
Particularly Elvis. I mean, Elvis just lived for the moment. You know, if he wanted the banana and peanut butter sandwich, and that's what he got. Lennon was more of a pie in the sky, you know, whatever Yoko told him to do, he was going to do, and, you know, he had a sense that, well, we're enlightened people. And then Ali, again, not introspective. I mean, when you're sitting there, and this is some of the best writing I've ever done, and you as a writer, I think, would appreciate the opening of the Ali section where I put the reader right in the ring where he's fighting Joe Frazier, and Frazier almost kills him. Almost literally kills him. And Ali is told by his doctor, Ferdy Pacheco, you know, you better lay off the fighting for about a year. 4 months later, guess who's back in the ring? And he should have, Ali, been introspective enough to understand that he was killing himself. But he wasn't. And, you know, the 4 wives and the 8 kids, and, you know, it just doesn't look like these 3 had any inkling about what was happening to them. Was not just them. It was a lot of other people as well.
When people read your book, your Killing the Legends, The Lethal Danger of Celebrity, what ultimately do you want them to take away from your research?
You know, a little bit more understanding of the celebrity culture and how it affects America. So, you know, I'll submit to you, we don't have the leadership we need in this country because many smart, honest people won't go into the political arena because they know they get their throats torn out. And they know their families will suffer, so they're not going to do it. And therefore, we have not the leadership we should have. And this intense, you know, tear down a celebrity, it's a sport. You can say anything you want about them on the internet. You can rip them up. This is not healthy for a society, not at all. So I think I hope they take away that.
And I know our time is tight, so just wrapping up with this last question here. Let me rephrase this. If you look at Elvis Presley's life and John Lennon's life and Muhammad Ali's life, would you consider them a success or failure? Or is it too unfair to sum it up either way?
Yeah, I can't evaluate people's lives. I mean, if you're dead at 42, that's not great. By your own hand, that was Elvis. Lennon assassinated, not his fault. Nothing he did led to the assassination, but the dissolution of his business partners, the Beatles, and the way he treated people, particularly his oldest son, no. And Ali, certainly a successful life, because he changed so many things for the better for African Americans. But again, the toll that it took on him and those around him was substantial.
This is fascinating stuff. This is going to be a great book. I bet it's going to be one of your best sellers out of your Killing series, just because it's so different from the other ones. Killing the Legends, The Lethal Danger of Celebrity. Bill O'Reilly, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt and chatting with me.
Thanks for having me, and Cheryl, always a pleasure.
Bill O'Reilly, of course, at BillO'Reilly.com, where he also broadcasts his daily No Spin news. So check it out. Check out his book. Very interesting discussion, very interesting topic of fame in America, the quest for fame in America, and what that fame and celebrity status ultimately bring to the people who achieve it. Remember that question. Be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you wish for. You may actually get it. Thank you for listening. I want to remind you, if you like Bold and Blunt, you can get Bold and Blunt at edify.app, at washingtontimes.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. I also want to quickly mention my own latest book, Lockdown, The Socialist Plan to Take Away Your Freedom. It's available now at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, wherever you buy your books. Thank you so much for your support for Bold and Blunt. Tune in next time, and in the meanwhile, stay blunt, stay bold.